I like to think of myself as a relatively confident babe, and by that I mean when it's time to show up, I will show up and shut down. But normally I'm just like, yeah, just chilling on the sidelines. And I want to be more of that confident side that I just see sometimes, not all the time. And I know what's holding me back is myself. So I did a bit of inner work, and I realized that I have not created a space within myself to feel weak, to feel and express my feelings to myself. And if I can't do that with myself, that means I can't do that to other people. And that explains so much because if anyone was to tell you I'm so awkward when it comes to like serious situations. I cannot open my mouth and tell you why I'm sad. And we're gonna go back to my childhood. And this is because, like, honestly, my mom was a very solutions based parent. Like, if I'm crying about something, she'll ask me why am I crying. I'll tell her, and she'll be like, "Why are you crying? We can find solutions. Stop crying. Let's just get the solution done," which was fantastic at the time. And it's helped me to become the person that I am. And I can see how it's been helpful in my adult world. Unfortunately, is that I cannot tell you for the life of you, for the life of me or anybody, why I'm sad. I'll feel shame, especially if I can't like really recognize what that emotion I'm feeling is. Because sometimes you're like you think you're mad, but really you're disappointed. But because you've never really quite categorized that feeling of disappointment, you'll just be like, I don't like this. I don't like this, and because I don't like this, I'm not gonna say anything, and then that just shuts me down, and shuts the other person out as well. And I want to be a more, communicative person, and be thorough in my communication so the person understands what's going on. This is all my vision board for 2025, so bear with me. We're gonna get deep. Okay, so let's define vulnerability and why I think it's like the missing factor to building the me that I want to build. And also, it's the reason why I even made this podcast, Building a You Want. So, vulnerability for me means creating a space within yourself to feeling soft, feeling weak, feeling confident, but not just like outright out loud confident, but like a quiet self-confidence where you know that if you make a mistake at doing something or say something that you think is silly, it's okay. Or even having like removing that thought process of there's such a thing as saying something silly, or there's such a thing as like a dumb question. For me, that's what vulnerability means. According to the Oxford Dictionary, and let me tell you, I read this thing 5 times. I still don't understand what it means, but I'm going to say that anyways. It says vulnerability is the quality or state of being exposed to possibilities of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. Yeah. Anyways, I read it, didn't understand it, and then I asked ChatGPT, yo, can you explain that to me? And then ChatGPT said, vulnerability involves being open about one's feelings, uncertainties, and challenges. And I'm like, yes, gal, this is exactly how I'm feeling. Like, I want to be more open to more challenges. I want to be open to my feelings and more uncertainties, and being able to articulate myself when things are getting a bit too emotional, when things are getting a bit too heated, and I don't know why I can't open my mouth and say the things I'm thinking. Why I'll be like, when something hurts my feelings, or why I can't really like do that thing I want to do, but I know I can't do the thing I want to do. It's because I'm afraid to be embarrassed. I'm afraid to not doing it above average. And I'm one of those people who's very delulu. I believe if I do something for the first time, I'm going to do it above average, which is very, very delusional and also very harmful because then I stop doing a lot of things because I'm like, realistically, I don't think I can do that above average, so I'm probably not gonna do it. So then a gal just stops, and it's like it's harming the self growth, and we need to do better because gals, it's 2025. We need to do better. We need to do better. But then I started to really think like, okay, how did having this lack of vulnerability within myself impact me or like impact other people? And it impacts a lot of people, including myself, by like in a professional setting. Again, I can't ask a question because I feel like I'm gonna sound dumb. I'm not gonna say a comment or an idea because I'm not 100% certain with it because I don't want to be perceived as not very smart or just having other people's opinions in my head, which is like ridiculous. Also in personal relationships, especially like in like a romantic setting, like if I'm feeling sad about something, I can't express why I'm feeling that way, and obviously it's very detrimental in a relationship if you can't express yourself. I know. I mean, it also makes me a very odd adult. You know, those adults are just like they just don't adult really well, and because you can't really speak up because you don't know what to say and you're just feeling stuck. I don't want to be like that and just feeling frazzled. I don't want to do better and just like not be frazzled and be like, hey, I'm feeling this way, and being able to like lift up the blockingness in my head that stops what I'm thinking from coming out, because I feel like sometimes there's like a wall between what I'm thinking, what I say. So I just want to lift up that wall, and that wall is called vulnerability, which I currently do not have, but I have a very high wall of, if that makes sense. Maybe. And then as I was doing my research, I realized that there's more people who talk about this, and I was like, obviously, duh. I'm not the only person on this earth, duh. But there's this lady called Brene Brown, and she has a really good quote that says, "Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation and creativity." Let me say it again. Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change, and that's the ballpark I want to be in. I want to be more innovative. I want to be more creative, and I want to bring change within myself, and that change is to be is to allow myself to try new things without feeling a sense of shame, a sense of I'm not doing it correctly, a sense of fear that I've stemmed within myself, and it's like stopped or halted my growth. It also like it also has what's it called, like, you know, when you can't just share things because you're avoiding sharing because you know you're not going to come out perfectly right. Even the way I'm just seeing this podcast is a bit of a mess right now, but it will get better as time comes up, because your girl is just trying to be a more articulate human being. I'm a more articulate person. I'm just gonna take a deep breath. Okay. So, vulnerability, okay, the fears that it can lead up to, which I honestly say I 1000% have these. I have an avoidance of sharing. If I don't have to share anything, I won't say a damn thing. It also leads to also up emotions. And honestly, I have so many emotions trapped within me that it's taken a really long time for me to like open them up within myself, not even like to other people where I'm like, oh, you did this to me. No, it's like me allowing myself to feel certain things. Like I stopped myself from feeling things, and I've recently just unpacked those things, not just recently, like in the past couple of years, honestly, since the pandemic. I think the pandemic just like opened up my mind, like, hey babes, we're not okay inside. But that's another challenge for another day. And self-doubt as well. uh you know, when you're unable to feel relaxed within yourself, you doubt yourself because you're wondering, do you sound okay? Do you sound smart? Does this question, is it actually, you know, does it make sense in this context? Are you even saying the question right? Are you phrasing it correctly? And it just stops a whole lot of things. There's like a whole lot of inner dialogue and questioning yourself before you even say the thing, to the point where you just don't even say anything anymore because you've spoken yourself out of doing the thing or saying the thing you need to say. And that's what vulnerability, a lack of vulnerability, does to a person. And if you're listening to this, I can bet you feel the same way. And if you don't, wow, you were one of the lucky ones. You were the one of the lucky ones that was able to be brought up with that, with that sense of vulnerability within you. Like they built that up within you. I'm building it up within myself because I was not it was not part of the building at Ayanda um, playbook. You know, the playbook was build a strong, independent woman. Done. Build a woman that's vulnerable inside and can speak up for, not just speak. I can speak up for myself. Let me be very, very clear about that. I can speak up for myself. It's speaking up about my emotion that I struggle with. Speaking to things where I'm unsure about, I struggle with that. And I want to build that up. And that's the whole point of this episode, of building and finding your voice through vulnerability. Because, like I said, if you don't have that vulnerability within yourself, that built in vulnerability, then it's hard for you to try new things. It's hard for you to feel things within yourself. Like, you're not going to be able to process the big ones, like shame. You know, you're not going to be able to process feeling sad or just feelings of just uncertainty where you just don't know what it is and you can't really express yourself and be open, not again, not to other people, to yourself. Like you need to start with you and you being able to accept that, okay, this thing hurt me because of A, B, C, and D. I feel shame about this because of A, B, C, and D. Or even admitting to having possibly having those feelings. Because I was even stuck in that loop of like, I don't feel shame. I do, and it's maybe I'm just big headed, but I I struggled with that, trying to understand myself, my feelings, and just having like a quiet place internally where it's like, babes, it's okay. Just you can relax. You can do the things, but not everything at once. Take time to feel things, understand those feelings, and feel everything at the same time. But just do it at your own pace and understand yourself. And it's okay if you don't find the quick solution, because I was built with a sense of problem, solution, problem, solution. Sometimes the solution is not very clear, sometimes because the problem isn't defined. And the only way to define the problem is really sit with it and understand it. And by understanding it, you have to feel it, and it just sucks because some feelings are just quite heavy and just uncomfortable. So it just brings me to a place of wanting to embrace more vulnerability within myself and foster more self confidence and authenticity, because these are the things that help with being more you, is to feel, you know okay, to embrace yourself in all shapes, form, manners, and feelings. And I want to do that. So I'm going to wrap up this podcast episode uh, by just saying a few words from that I found through my research, which is, if someone hasn't developed comfort with vulnerability, they might feel a fear of judgment, rejection, failure to express themselves through needs or thoughts, which I have delved quite into, maybe not in the clearest way or format, but it's part of the podcast. And this is the first episode of not just building a better me, but building a better you too, you the listener. We're gonna grow together. We're gonna do action steps at the end of each episode, and hopefully we can build build the us that we want. Build the person that we know that we are, the person that we are in our heads. Like, that confident, that a very articulate person, that very funny person, that funny, that person you just like that you are when you're by yourself. But then sometimes it's like hard for them to come out when you're with other people. We're gonna build them out. They're gonna come out the closet. They're gonna come out the mind, and they're gonna shine. And that's what we're gonna do throughout the next episodes. And this episode is called "Finding Your Voice Through Vulnerability." And I hope this just wasn't a rant, which it probably was, and it's probably gonna be messy, but the next one will be better. So for this action step, for this episode, the action step is to read Brené Brown's book about daring greatly. And the reason why I brought up Brené Brown is because she is an amazing academic. She studied um, vulnerability. She's given TED Talks about the topic, and it's helped her find her voice, find her strength through being vulnerable and being a better leader, being a better person. And that's where we're going to be. So the action step is to read Brené Brown's Daring Greatly. And I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye.